Recreation. I'm a recreation therapist at St. Mark's Hospital in the behavioral health services. I've been a recreation therapist for over 20 years and been working in behavioral health for the last, I think, 8 years. So it's kind of, these are skills that we like to teach and refresh people that we serve in behavioral health, that, you know, to build their self-confidence and self-esteem. So I kind of thought, you know, if we look at the concepts of self-confidence and self-esteem, you know, these terms have been around since really the beginning of the century, where all of these behavioral health specialists and different disciplines have been growing. We get different theories about people and their confidence and their self-esteem and their ability to be really successful in reaching their goals of life and being, you know, so it's all about being successful where we as individuals want to be. So the research that was really developing kind of began with Isaac, I think it's, oh, I forget his name all the time. Abraham Maslow. He did the triangle of the hierarchy of needs in 1943. And it's like, when you look at our base person, is we feel safer when we have a good foundation of our food and clothing, housing, and then the next layer being, you know, having employment and having family. And one of the top, so our top of the pyramid is self-actualization, but right below that is our self-esteem and having that confidence and belief in yourself. So that theory came out in 1943. But Nathaniel Branden really coined and gave us that very first concept and movement of building self-esteem. So it was building self-esteem within employees, within ourselves, and then to transfer that over to our children. So in 1969, we saw this huge growth and development in our emotional well-being through building our self-confidence. And Nathaniel Branden has written over 20 books on this subject. And then we have Albert Bandura, who in 1977 came out with that self-efficacy theory. So we have all of these concepts and all of these theories out there about us, ourselves, how we think and feel, that really affect our emotional well-being. So we utilize in the profession, it's self-confidence and self-esteem are actually kind of interchangeable, and people use them because they are interrelated to each other. They are actually just a little different. You're having a healthy self-confidence helps you to build a healthy self-esteem, and the other way around, you know, accepting and understanding who you are and improving your self-esteem can also lead to improving that emotional or that personal self-confidence. So we're going to move along. Maybe. So self-confidence is actually that belief and that trust. Here's my big old typo, and it's in our abilities, our qualities, and the judgments. It's like, do we trust our abilities? You know, the ability to follow through, its ability to cook a good meal, it's an ability to maybe make that three-point shot. So looking at our abilities physically and emotionally, having our qualities, knowing what our qualities are, and then having a trust in our judgment. It's trusting our judgments and utilizing our wisdom and making personal decisions in ourselves. So it's really not judgment in the way that it's that punitive and, you know, judgmental kind of stance, but it's understanding that we have that ability to make judgments for our better good. Self-confidence is how we protect ourselves to other people. It's having that a real resilience and awareness of ourselves, looking at those qualities and our abilities. It's self-confidence is our attitude towards our skills and our abilities. It's how we feel about ourselves. Do we feel more positive about our qualities, or are we more negative in our concepts of those qualities and abilities? It's about having a sense of control in your life. It goes playing along with the, having where we were right and choosing who we're with, having a sense of control in our events with a confidence. Of course, it's our self-assurance. So all of this is subject to our interpretation. Self-confidence tends to focus on our future situations based upon the past performances. So there's that self-concept of self-confidence. And when you look at self-esteem, that is the belief on the inside of yourself. It's our confidence in that we as a person have value and worth, that we are believing in that we are deserving of positivity, that we're deserving of a promotion, or we're deserving of having good friends, we're deserving of being nice to ourselves. So it's that how we see ourselves on the inside, the reflection of the messages that we've been told. So throughout our lives, we have events, we have messages, we have people in our lives. We get those messages, and we tend to believe those and we need to reflect upon them. That's also our opinion and our personal beliefs. So when we look at how balanced and how accurate are our personal opinions and those personal beliefs, and those really build your self-esteem. So I might have a positive and more healthy self-esteem about myself if I'm more balanced and able to see accuracy in my functioning of my personal beliefs. Having a self-esteem and in that piece of it is self-esteem is a major influencer of our personal motivation. So when we look at choices we make, things that we reach for, and our goals depends on where our self-esteem level is. And that influences really is it dependent on the external forces in our lives. And self-esteem is kind of equivalent to self-respect. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So having a healthy self-confidence level really means that we are doing what we believe is right despite what other people say. So that's, our judgment, our wisdom, and our decisions. So if we believe something is right, we're going to stick to that thought process, and we're going to do that being confident in the decisions that we make, even though other people may have a disagreement. So it's helping you to stand firm in that. It helps you to decrease that or increase your freedom of self-doubt and increase your capabilities. So sometimes we do kind of doubt ourselves when other people have a difference of opinion, but feeling confident in what you say reduces self-doubt. Being willing to take risks or going the extra mile. It's having that emotional energy and the physical energy to move out and doing the extra mile things. It's, helping you to being confident that you're able to do more than what you may have thought. Having self-confidence is admitting to making mistakes and learning from them. It's being able to accept that you're able to step out of that comfort zone and kind of look and take, inventory of those mistakes. Where did we go wrong? Where can we improve? And using that and being confident in that part of it. That also helps us to reduce anxiety and fear, because we all tend to fear making mistakes. No one wants to, be a failure, and we fear that in life. So I think many of us have been taught to be perfect, because if we're perfect, we're going to be accepted better, and it causes a lot of anxiety. So fear of mistakes really can add a lot, and it kind of can dash our self-confidence. But if we turn our thinking around and learning from them, it works to our advantage. Waiting for feedback or congratulations on personal achievements, that's that internal part of us wanting and knowing that we're doing a good job, that immediate building up of our self-confidence, really helps drive us. But when we can take that step back and await that background piece of personal congratulations or that feedback, is really nice to know that your personal self-confidence does not need immediacy. It's allowing us to be in that interaction and in that moment at that time before getting recognized. And of course, accepting compliments, having self-confidence in yourselves helps us to accept compliments. Where I think we are not often taught to take compliments, but where it shows that we have a good, healthy self-confidence when people do compliment you and you take that in stride. The opposite side of like a healthy confidence would, of course, be a lower self-confidence, and we don't do any of these things. But there's also this piece that is often correlated with kind of unrealistic expectations and narcissism. So we may meet people who are overly confident, and they're kind of narcissistic in that presentation of ourselves. And so those people are not really looking at their qualities in a balanced and accurate manner. So self-confidence can be low or exaggerated. So kind of looking at those pieces. The benefits of having a self-confidence is really like that little image that I stuck in. It's really very important for us to see that and kind of work towards that. So being our best under stress. When we have a healthy self-confidence and we have that personal belief, we function better under stress. We experience more fearlessness and less anxiety. Therefore, are encouraged, to move along, taking those chances, going the extra mile, functioning under stress when we have a more healthy self-confidence. Having that self-confidence helps you be a motivator and an influencer of others. And when we are energized and we're motivated, that energy goes around other people as well. We can see our own confidence. We can influence others and help them see where their strengths are, where their qualities are. And so through our healthy self-confidence level, we can influence those others around us, because we all have relationships in our family homes and people we work with in our workplace, in our social life, and we can utilize our self-confidence and helping to influence other people. Having that leadership and ability to the executive presence, it helps us think clearer. So our critical thinking skills can be more activated when we have a healthy self-confidence, so we can rise to a leadership role or use those critical thinking in our executive functioning. That's that intelligence piece. When we exude a positive attitude, when I'm feeling better and having a belief in myself, I am able to exhibit more positive attitudes. Those are very, that influences, like going back up to that motivator and influencer. So we have that positive attitude in our day-to-day challenges, and helps us to move forward because we have made progress. We've been able to move through different mistakes. We've been able to, what was my statement? Using our past performance in building that future with our positive energy. Feeling valued. When we believe in ourselves, we tend to value ourselves. And when we value ourselves, it brings about that message to other people. And they tend to value you also. When they can see your qualities, you exhibit your qualities and your abilities, and we're becoming valued within ourselves and others. It's energizing. You think about having energy and having that positivity when we have no anxiety and fear. We're energized. We are motivated. We get creative. And all of those things help you to have that self-confidence in yourself, which all is a big driver in your ability to attain your goals. So I think about all of these things build up your personal success level, wherever your successes may be. So how do we build a better self-confidence? So as a recreation therapist, I think some of the best ways we do is through our leisure activities, our choices. And I think a lot of us may know people who have been in sports or musical instruments. These are really big ways to kind of see confidence levels and how to kind of work and build on that. Where are my little bullets? So the first way to help boost your self-confidence is to conquer your inner critic. It goes back to those messages we were given throughout our lifetime. What are those messages we were given? Are they positive? Then and negative. So even when we look at our personal critic life, at that inner voice we have, and practicing mindfulness, there's no, and I can't say that there's nothing that mindfulness can't fix, but mindfulness brings you into your moment. It helps you to become more mindful when that inner critic is in your face. It's sitting right here on your shoulder. It could be really negative or it could be positive. But being mindful of where your mindset is where that mindfulness piece is. So we can start conquering those messages we tell ourselves from the past. When we reflect on our accomplishments, we don't often go back and think about, oh, look at me, I succeeded here, I accomplished that. But when we go back into our life, and look at what was meaningful to us, what little goals we were making every day, and looking at those accomplishments. And the other side of reflection of our accomplishments, wherever they are, maybe it was just to make it through the day, but also to visualize ourselves in that confidence. And I know a lot of sports coaches use that skill, visualizing, helping, athletes visualize themselves making that goal or connecting their moves together. It also helps in a lot of ways when, visualizing ourselves succeeding is that visualization of personal self-confidence. It's a really good skill to have. Actually, maintaining your good posture. If you kind of think about it right now, it's like, think about if you're in your chair kind of slumpy, or if you kind of stand slumpy, you're tired, exhausted. And the moment you sit up straight, you grow your spine, you open up your lungs and your diaphragm, you're oxygenating your brain, which opens up that energy, and we feel better just by standing in a better, good posture stance. There's a lot of research, and one of the researchers or these references that I pull from is about our posture. It's like what we present and convey a lot through our posture. You can all visualize Wonder Woman, how she stands strong and she's got her arms firmly and fixed on her hips, and her legs are wide in stance as if she's ready for anything. So that's that power postures that we have that really boost our ability to feel confident. Exercising regularly, whether it's that daily walk of 20 to 30 minutes, our bodies feel better, our lungs and heart function better to give our whole bodies better energy. When we have better energy, better oxygenation, those critical thinking pathways are opened and we have better brain function. So it's really good to do those posture skills. Having an equality in the mentality, feeling equal. It's that ability to believe in yourself, combating any stereotypes. So I could combat myself like, oh, I choose to be a recreation therapist. Well, the mentality of that would be, well, why didn't I become a social worker? Or combating that equality in my role versus a different role. That we all have a meaningful piece of that corporate play, that piece of our pie, and avoiding any stereotypes that we may have about ourselves. It's kind of a difficult thing to do sometimes, is to believe that we are equally valuable in any piece. And it kind of goes along with, people on a sports team. If you look at football, we all tend to think that the quarterback is more valuable than the field goal kicker. I think that's the right term, but they're very important as well. So it's like, where are these pieces of our thought process? Trying new things that make you uncomfortable. Oh my, nobody likes discomfort. It causes a lot of distress and uncomfortable feelings in ourselves. But when we look at trying brand new things, and giving yourself permission to go into those uncomfortable settings, because giving ourselves permission means that we're giving and accepting that we might be a failure at that new skill. But when we try new things, it actually stimulates your brain cells. We're opening new brain thought pathways, and it opens ourselves up to trying new things, learning new things, which now maybe become part of a new repertoire of things to add in building your confidence because you've developed a new skill, and giving your permission to do that, which is really helpful. It helps you become human as well. Some people do better at new skills. Maybe that one wasn't for you, and it gives you that ability to move in and out of trying and whether it's for you or not is important for us to see. Setting and achieving goals. Having a self-confidence can really help you look at, what goals do I want to set? If I'm going to learn how to play the violin, and I'm just learning, and I'm coming into an orchestra, is my goal going to immediately be to become the first chair? Is it an achievable goal when I'm in an orchestra where people have played for 5 and 6 years and I'm coming into it now? We look at an achievable goal and where we want to be. Because you look at our self-confidence level for that, it can be very different in making our goals achievable. We look, and it goes back to knowing your abilities, knowing what you want, and is it even important to be the first chair of the orchestra? So looking at your personal balance, your skills, and what's meaningful to you. Learning how to speak to yourself with compassion, being kind. It goes into that inner critic voice that we have. Being able to have compassion for yourself helps you to step out of your comfort zone. It helps you to be kind when you make mistakes and you're learning to grow. Being kind and compassionate, accepting where your skills and abilities are. We all have different experiences in life. We all are exposed to different things. And so when we look at taking that step back, that mindfulness piece of looking at where we have been, what experiences we've been through, having compassion for where we are now, maybe, and being kind to ourselves because of our experiences versus the other people that are in our lives. It also helps us to get that courage to step away from harmful relationships. We're in bad relationships, maybe we're doing things that don't help our self-confidence at all. Being kind to ourselves, where we are now using our mindfulness skills to be aware of that situation where we're at is not benefiting our emotional status at all. It helps us to remove ourselves and make those changes. And sometimes the way to boost our self-confidence is to seek and or use help. Sometimes it's really beneficial to have other people on the outside who see our accomplishments, who know that inner voice, who see our abilities and our qualities, and they're the people who can help us kind of place ourselves in a realistic and more human mind. It helps us to accept those things and be able to move through and develop that whole self-confidence piece. So I have these cute little sayings that I think, some of them are a little hard to read, but during the time of Theodore Roosevelt, each time we face our fear, we gain strength, our courage and confidence in doing it. So every time we face fears, we're building up our courage and confidence. There was a lot of, pushing through and looking through that. Confidence is the ability to wear yourself, to have the confidence of being who you are with all of your skills, all of your qualities, and wearing that. I have to move my little screen. Rosalind Carter, if you have the confidence in your ability, then follow through and then be tough enough to follow through with it. And when we gain and look at our qualities, then we can follow through with it. Swami Vivekananda, back in the 1800s, really helped the world learn that, you as a person is very worthwhile. And I liked his statement is talking to yourself once a day. Otherwise you may be missing an intelligent person in this world. How often do we have that inner dialogue and look at our intelligence where it is in that spectrum? Marilyn Monroe bringing up is wanting to be someone else is a waste of who we are. We look at other people and we see their qualities, we see their abilities. And that's, when we look at, I want to be just like them. Yes, we can develop those skills. And it really takes a lot of time. And it kind of goes into this last statement is sometimes the hardest part of our journey is to believe that we're worth it. So our self-confidence means that taking that belief in ourselves, when we see other people, we see their qualities, we see their skills, and we think, I want to be like that. It is possible. It takes us stepping out of that comfort zone, trying new things, accepting that we may be a failure at first, that it takes time and practice. So that's my little bit on self-confidence.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris? You can go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll pass them along.
Thank you. So self-esteem. Our self-esteem is knowing and accepting yourself, having that firm understanding and accepting your uniqueness. So we all have a set of skills. It's learning to value and accept and know who we are and where we function. And that's one of those core pieces of our self-esteem. It's having that healthy relationship with ourselves. So even in these two first statements, you can see how self-confidence and self-esteem are very interrelated. Having that healthy relationship with yourself is that healthy inner critic, that healthy voice that we have, and accepting who we are. Having the capacity to maintain our healthy relationships with others. When we stand firm to ourselves, our worth, and it goes down to our value, it helps us to have healthy relationship with other people. Maintaining that, it's holding true to your personal boundaries. It's that emotional strength that we have to stand up for ourselves and not be walked all over. It's that walked all over by ourselves and other people as well, because we can do that to ourselves. Having a realistic and appropriate expectations of ourselves and abilities. It kind of goes back to my thinking that if I'm going to be a violin player and I want to be in this great orchestra or something, it's having realistic expectations and that are appropriate. And those things go hand in hand again, that confidence in your abilities and those realistic expectations. Understanding your needs and being able to express them. That's a really important piece of that mindfulness. Understanding what our need, being mindful of where we're at in the moment and what is it that we need. And knowing what we need changes. It takes time sometimes. It's difficult to understand sometimes, and it could take a couple of days to take that step back and think about it. What is it that I need? And then to be able to express that is it takes that self-esteem that you're worth identifying what is it that I need and being able to express them. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of kind of the difference of that self-esteem, because that's that more internal part of the belief in yourself and your worth and value, and self-confidence being that belief in your abilities and qualities. The benefits of having a healthy self-esteem. You may very well be aware of your healthy self-esteem is your ability to assert and express your needs and opinions. We look at a home situation, maybe it's like the difficulty we may have with working full time, coming home, and believing that you're worth having assistance. Because we do have, hopefully we have other members in our family who are capable of helping in working days, all these difficulties that we may be facing and daily stressors, and being assertive and expressing how we can get our needs and opinions across, that's our value. Our healthy self-esteem is our ability and confidence in making decisions. You look at our decision-making skills and those making personal judgments is a benefit of your healthy self-esteem. Being able to form secure and honest relationships. And then the other part is to not stay in unhealthy relationships. So when we know ourselves, value ourselves, we value our opinions and needs, we're going to have supportive, honest, and secure relationships. Those people in our lives who want to listen, they take that time to hear your needs and expression and opinions. And when we have people in our lives who aren't supportive to us, who disregard our personal opinions and needs, we can look at my self-esteem and my self-confidence may need a boost because, we look at how those relationships are interacted with us and looking at our self-esteem level. Having, once again, realistic expectations of ourselves, and then we're less likely to be critical of ourselves and others. If my self-esteem is kind of waning, because some days we function better, we feel better about ourselves, and we have better expectations. We're at our top of our game or our skill ability, wherever that is. And so having all those pieces together, your self-esteem, we're going to be less critical of ourselves and understanding that, today wasn't at my best, and being able to change our thought processes and not be very critical of ourselves or others. The other benefit of a healthy self-esteem is having more resilience, being able to bounce back and to weather those stressors and setbacks that we have. So our healthy self-esteem helps us to utilize all those resilient pieces and our abilities to come back or to manage those daily stressors. Low self-esteem is something that we really talk about, that all this literature is like, we know what it may feel like, like I said before, some days our self-confidence is better. Our self-esteem is better than other days. If we're stressed, if we are not getting good health and nutrition, our self-esteem and self-confidence levels kind of decrease. So low self-esteem also shows that we have that lack of confidence and we're afraid to take an appropriate risk. It could be very evident sometimes when our ability to step away from at that comfort level. Having a very negative view on life and those negative thinking patterns. It's like our thinking patterns, those negative thought processes would be like we're labeling ourselves that we're not very smart. We only see things in black and white. Well, if I can't do it this way, if I can't be perfect, then I'm not going to do it at all. We might overgeneralize. Well, I'm a failure at everything. Getting that negative thinking and the parts of that. Having a low self-esteem, we may really mistrust and we may blame others very inaccurately or inappropriately too. So when we look at placing blame on others, it helps us feel just a little better, but it's really an inaccurate way of viewing things. Having low self-esteem, we try working towards perfectionism and getting rid of any ridicule. So we don't like to be told we're a failure. We don't like to tell us that we're doing something wrong. Those bullies out there, or when we have to feel perfect in everything, that's a sign of low self-esteem. That if I could just do everything great, then I'm going to be loved. Having that dependence on others to make decisions. It can't, when our self-esteem is lower, it's like, well, I can't make that decision. You make it for me. Or something simple like, well, I don't know what to watch. You make the decision. I can't decide what to have dinner. You decide. Dependent on other people because we don't trust our abilities to make decisions. We have a distorted view of ourselves and others. You know, when we don't think very positively about ourselves or others, it's very distorted, and we are not looking at the facts of our abilities, our skills, our successes. The fear of being unloved and lovable. As a community, humans need to be a part of that community. And if we don't value ourselves, we don't feel that we're worthy, we are going to have increased feelings of being unlovable. And that comes from we're not loving ourselves, and therefore we kind of view everyone else viewing ourselves that way. If we can't value ourselves and our abilities, it's hard to have other people doing that with us. And then having a low self-esteem, we avoid a lot. We isolate. We just stick to our own little area because it's safe. Because low self-esteem and low self-confidence, we don't want that discomfort. We have enough of that already. I can't bear anymore. So the ways to build healthy self-esteem. Yes, we can do that. And it's important to work on that. So number one is to identify our troubling situations and conditions. When we know what kind of takes our emotional stability and makes them uncomfortable, there's different situations or conditions. And we can identify those, we're going to be able to work to manage those situations better, either by coming better prepared to them, or to alter those situations within our control. So that's one way of building your self-esteem. Once we become aware of our another typo, our thought patterns and our personal beliefs, that's that mindfulness piece. When I can be mindful of what my inner critic is saying, what are these thought patterns? Am I telling myself I'm not enough? Am I telling myself that I am a failure? Am I telling myself I can't do it? And what is that belief? Do I really believe all those voices from my past? So being aware and using that mindfulness piece, it really helps to use that reflection of where these beliefs came from and are they true? That's where challenging these negative and inaccurate thinking patterns are. Being mindful and being able to take the step back and identifying, where do I think incorrectly? Sometimes having other people in our lives help us to see where our negative thinking patterns are, where we're overgeneralizing, where we're magnifying these negative traits that we believe we have, but really aren't there. So that could be a very important piece in that mindfulness, knowing where our thought processes are. Adjusting our thoughts and beliefs. I think you might be seeing a pattern. Our self-esteem is how we think and our personal beliefs. We adjust our thoughts. We start believing those positive thoughts. Start changing a negative thought to a positive affirmation. We're going to improve our personal beliefs. It takes a lot of practice. So here's the next one, using positive affirmations. There's a lot of resources in social media and on our web, even Instagram, daily positive affirmation pieces that you subscribe to. The more we have positive affirmations in our lives, the more we believe them. And we can pick and choose who we listen to. We can pick and choose what type of affirmation we are listening to or believing to help us create better self-talk and help us improve our beliefs. Helping us to identify our competencies and develop them. Once again, we can use journaling prompts. We can do talking to other people, getting counselors, taking those step backs, taking an inventory of what we're good at. And as a recreation therapist, it starts with, what are we competent in our daily lives? Are we competent in leisure skills that we have? We generally are, because they're meaningful to us. We do them well. So starting and looking at, what do I do well? And developing those, and then moving on to other areas. A lot of our skills can transfer over. Learning to accept compliments. It's not being arrogant. It's not, being that, what would be another word? I'm losing words about arrogance, but it or a narcissist, really. Think about learning to accept a compliment. If someone says to you, that was a good way that you did something, accept it, because deep inside you might feel the same way. That's why it happened. We always think about people complimenting our ties, or they compliment an outfit or a new hairdo. And it's like, when we accept that, we're validating that we made a good decision, and that we're accepting that judgment in our taste in clothing. That's a very simplified way of thinking, but we choose things by our taste, and having other people compliment it helps us to be able to have a healthy self-esteem, to be able to say, thanks, I liked it also. Helping to eliminate that self-criticism and introduce self-compassion. Self-compassion is one of the newest, in my opinion, big term out there versus our self-esteem. It's having compassion for you as a human, that we are all in that same human mud bowl, really, maybe. We all make mistakes. We all do well. We're all, working and practicing towards things, and giving yourself that compassion to make mistakes, to try new things, and to take that piece of the thought process. Well, that didn't work. I didn't like it, and maybe it's not for me. So versus beating ourselves up and having that negative self-criticism, having the compassion and turning it into a more positive, self-affirming statement. Affirm your real worth. Really looking at that we are worth it, and believing that is a very important piece to that self-confidence. And here are these lovely little quotes that I pulled in. Just think, how would your life change if your self-esteem improved? Kind of a really important thought process. So as you read these, you can see that we all benefit from caring for ourselves, for taking that step and believing we're worth it, um, looking at our accomplishments to build your positive self-confidence, which builds your self-esteem. So these are my references, and I really would encourage people to watch these TED Talks on the skill of self-confidence. It's very informative, and it really helps us see where we can work on our self-confidence. The Andy or Amy Cuddy, the body language shapes who you are. It's about our self-confidence, that those positive, healthy, strong body languages. It's a very informative 21 minutes. And then the 5 ways of building your self-esteem, Dr. Guy Winch. So these are quick TED Talks. They're easy to find. And watching them and sharing them with people in your life to help you, if you want to work on your self-confidence or self-esteem, to help you kind of like have that support system, like, hey, maybe these things, or did you remember to do these things, and that. So there's a lot of podcasts out there that we can listen to continue to help us refresh our memories, validate that we're doing good skills and practicing those skills. And of course, authentic happiness. Dr. Martin Seligman, he's got that positive psychology, variety of different books and resources out there for us to learn to value ourselves, love ourselves, and accept that we're human within all of our abilities, qualities, and uniqueness. And that is my presentation to you. Hope it was beneficial.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You're welcome.
We do have one question in the chat, and that is, how can I help my friend, partner, or child of mine to improve their self-confidence and self-esteem?
So I think, when we look at, asking, coming down to asking a person, what do we think about? It can start with, what is it that you want? What is it that you need? And I think looking at somebody's values. So when we get down to who are you? What do you think you're good at? And some people will give a list of just a few things that they're good at. What are your good qualities? What are your skills? And what do you value? What are your goals? And then they may not have very many there. They could list a whole bunch of things that they're not good at, that they wish they were good at. And when you look at that, taking those lists and looking at the pros and cons is very helpful to kind of help them see, oh, I do have this. Well, if you want to build this up, then how are we going to do it and work on that game plan? Does that help?
Yeah, that sounds helpful to me.
Good.
I hope it was helpful to the person who asked the question.
Okay.
We did have another question and another comment that came through.
Okay.
So the other question is, as I age, my self-esteem is struggling. Is this typical with age? Do the elderly struggle with this?
I would think so. I mean, I look at me aging and things, it's like, oh, my self-esteem has changed. And I think our self-esteem changes over our lifetime. Those adults or youth are really powerful, right? They feel like nothing can knock them down, which is kind of and a healthy, but they're working and learning their skills. And I think as we age, our confidence levels, our abilities to love and care for ourselves change. Because I think our society struggles valuing older people. We value that youth. We don't value wrinkles and wisdom. And so being able to learn to love yourself in that aging process that, and owning all of our experiences, owning what we've done, and being able to value where we're at and what we're capable of doing at those ages. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is.
Good.
We had a comment that said, excellent, you covered so much information that aligns with some areas that I am currently working on. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our self-confidence and self-esteem do get kind of, they're in battle periodically, you know. We do better some days and months, and you know, when things are really shaky, they wax and wane. So it is normal for these things to grow and to lessen, and we always can continue to work with that, with mindfulness and knowing where we're at.
And I have one more question, and I think it's a great one. What are some suggestions for determining whether criticism is constructive or not? How do I identify where people are being negative or troubling? What are some indicators?
Wow, that's a good one. When we need to look at, and I think that's that compassion piece, but it's looking at who's giving the criticism and why. Is that person giving you criticism to help you achieve where you want to be? Are they helping you to reach your potential? Or is this person giving you criticism as a punitive way? You know, criticism can be a way of building somebody else up and tearing you down. And so I think it's important to see, why are they giving you that criticism? And is it being in a mean or helpful way? And I think that's where we can ask, why are we having this conversation? It puts us out of our comfort zone, definitely.
Yes, that was very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? Last call for questions in the chat.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I enjoyed this, and I think it was very useful for people.
Great.
So appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for coming.